Well, it's about that time right here on KAZ Radio, Cleveland's online inspiration station. And today we got a special guest on What's Going On with Lady D and Sir John, none other than my cousin, your friend, NBA superstar, Manny Leaks. And if I had applause, I'd have given it to you. But welcome, Manny Leaks, to What's Going On, man. How you guys doing today?
Well, more than fair to Midland, even though it's a little windy outside.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great,
good.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. You two are cousins?
Yes.
You're a cousin to an NBA legend?
Absolutely, man. I ain't no cheddar cheese or whatever they call it. I ain't nothing cheap now, man. But yeah, Manny is family. He's a cousin of mine.
Awesome.
Through my aunts and what have you, and he is truly a wonderful and great man of God. Well, John, go ahead and you can open up with some questions. I got a ton of things I want to know about Manny, his career, and so on and so forth.
Well, that's what I was going to go to. Tell us a little bit, because not many people know, that, hey, we have a legend here that's from Cleveland, played in the NBA, the ABA. How did you get, how that all blow up?
This is interesting because basically when I was younger, I was really introverted. And I actually had a growth spurt. And Ron Carter, who played, he was a star player for Glenville.
Okay.
He used to walk by my house going to Sawinski Playground.
All right.
So I'm walking my dog, and he said, "Man, you're getting tall. What you doing?" I said, "I'm walking my dog." He said, "Put that dog up. I'm taking you to the playground." So he took me to the playground, and one of my neighbors, Wally Banks, was there, and they all just went crazy. Of course, I jammed my finger the second day, and it's still shaped like those, those braces.
Yeah.
It's shaped just like those metal
Braces back in the day.
Yeah, so I had to adjust my jumper when I developed. But that was kind of got me started. Again, I was really quiet. And so my first, I ended up going out for Empire Junior High School's team.
Okay.
And I was terrible. I couldn't see myself on the court, but I was out there.
Uh-huh.
And so after the season was over, the coaches did a pretty good job, Leo Clayton and Mr. Lattimore. But I was shooting around maybe a day or two after the season by myself, kind of angry with myself because I was so terrible. And this janitor, with a process, he said, "Son, if you really want to get yourself together, you need to pick the spots you're going to get the shots in the game. And if you want to be good, shoot them 500 times each. But if you want to be great, shoot them 1,000 times."
Wow.
And all the things I heard, that made more sense to me than what all those coaches told me. And I took it serious.
Hey, guys, hold on. We got Lady D on the line. Let her chime in right quick. Okay. Lady D, you want to ask a question?
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How's everybody doing there?
All right.
Hey, how you doing?
Excellent. Thank you, Manny, for coming on my show. Sorry I can't be there. I'm in the hot ATL right now. So I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for coming on. And I know you guys are going to have a wonderful show today.
It's my
That's
pleasure.
what's going on.
All righty.
All right, Lady
pleasure.
D. Thanks. All right, bye-bye. So continue your story.
Yeah, I mean.
So a janitor discovered you? Is that what
you-
you're telling you?
Well, gave him his
No,
strategy.
the janitor passed some wisdom on to me.
Exactly.
Got you.
I mean, and you never know where that wisdom's gonna come from.
Right.
But this janitor told me that, and I teach that now. That's one of the things I teach in terms of repetition, doing something over and over
Finding
again,
your spots.
and perfecting it.
Right.
But you got to put the time in, and you got to do it over and over. Whatever you're mastering, you got to put the time in. So anyway, I started going to the playground. Sawinski Playground was down the street from my house, among the cultural gardens. So a lot of people know where that is, and so I played every day, you know, and I was there all day. And my parents were saying, "Where you been?" I said, "Playing basketball." I said, "You can't be playing basketball like that. That's impossible." I said, "I was playing ball. You know, I stopped and drank some water, but I was playing ball." And I came back hitting bottoms, and the schools fought over me, Glenville and East High. And Chuck Lyons, he was about 26 years old, one of the most handsome men I've ever seen in my life, was up there charming my mother, knocking on the door, and he found out that I wanted to learn how to drive. And he took me and taught me how to drive. And that, you know, and then he could play basketball. He claimed that, he told me that he was drafted by the Hawks, the St. Louis Hawks, because he had a really great game. I never checked on it until his funeral. And I said, I never checked on that. And he always seemed to want me to meet his roommate. And I found out his roommate was the one that was drafted by the St. Louis Hawks. But that was okay. That was okay. That was one of his moves he used to get me. So that was okay.
It worked?
Yeah. So that was kind of the beginning of things, and I still had to to work hard. I did really well at Empire, and East High won out on that fight for me. But I had to take a special transfer. I had to take German to go there. But they were giving special transfers during that time. Because my younger sister had went to East High. My other two sisters had gone to Glenville. My family liked East High better. I wanted to go to Glenville because I wasn't no player, but I knew the girls was at Glenville. But it ended up, I went to East High, and I actually started. In the 10th grade, I started. In the first game, this is really, really profound. The first game, I got 3 rebounds and I didn't score. So my coach, Chuck Lyons, Mr. Charm, that all the women like, he says, "Look, I'm gonna have to move you down to JV." And because, you know, and I'm really quiet. I don't say nothing to nobody. But I thought about it. I slept on it. And he had these swinging doors in his office. I bust through those doors, and I said, "It's not fair to move me to JV. I'll take on anybody." And I was like totally out of my character. This quiet, introverted guy. I was going crazy.
He like, what's going on?
So for the next 2 weeks, I kicked everybody's, you know what.
Wow.
I mean, I was blocking the guard shot, running from the center position. I went berserk. You know, I went crazy for 2 weeks. And then I stood in the middle of the court and I said, "Dad, I can do this all the time." I used to get tired before. I didn't even get tired. I was so angry. But that really taught me that I could play hard the whole game. A lot of guys don't do that. But you can play hard the whole game. And the coach peeped on it and he said, "Look, why don't you do an exercise? Don't pay no attention to anybody else, but do a ritual of preparation. Warm yourself up because you're already starting to play earlier than everybody else because you're playing hard. Warm up and you can play even harder and you'll be, because most guys, it takes them a little while to warm up. You can just start." And so I use that technique all of my career, you know, to just warm up. I had a ritual. I didn't pay no attention to what everybody else did. And then also, I was always serious about my shots. Shoot it the same way you shoot it in a game. Don't fool around or just shoot without jumping and go through the motions, that repetition. Do it the same way every time. So all of those things were important in terms of that learning process. And I kind of passed those principles on to young people when I talk to them. And I really put a strong emphasis on talking to young people. That's one of the things, I guess, is my calling, to focus in on the young people. And I'm a master level social worker. Okay. So I'm a graduate of Case Western Reserve. I went through the Mandel School of Applied Social.
My mother.
Oh, really?
And my aunt.
Oh, okay.
And my uncle.
Yeah. So I have that experience. I actually went into social work for a while. So, you know, so those are some of the things. So What else would you like to know?
Well, you know, now when it comes to you, I know you said you're talking about teaching young people the principles of
Life.
being persevering and practicing. Is it something that you're requested to come to places to speak, or is it just as you come across kids? I mean, what platform are you using to do this so my audience can know?
Okay, I'm asked to speak to kids, youth a lot.
Okay.
Even when I did social work, they would ask me, well, would you speak to our kids? Would you
Yeah.
talk to them?
Yeah.
Because that my background of sports and also being educated and very verbal, not introverted like I used to be, a lot of people have asked me to speak to young people because they need a male role model that's communicating and speaking up, because a lot of the young people have that missing
Right.
in their life. And so a lot of the mothers, you know, they ask me to speak to the children. So that's part of it. But I'm also starting a public speaking career, because that's one of my gifts, and I'm older now. And so that's one of my gifts that I have now. You know, I'm retired, so most of the things that I do is because I want to do them. I'm motivated to do them, and so that's kind of I focused in on speaking to young people. But
So I'm like a motivational speaker for young people.
I'm a motivational speaker. I'm definitely a motivational speaker, and I always try to encourage young people. As a matter of fact, I tell them to develop their basic fundamental skills. I use that terminology of sports, but you can apply that to reading, writing, and your math. Those are those basic fundamentals for the foundation of the rest of their life. And I preach that. I talked to some young children that were golfing. They were really young. And so I said, you know what? You could be a child prodigy. But if you don't work hard, you'll never find it out. So it's good, even though you're really young, to see how hard you can work and see how much you can learn. And who knows, you could be a child prodigy.
Right.
But you got to try some things. And I even talked to them about a young boy that was from the Philippines, that was 11 years old, and was playing John Coltrane and all that jazz, all different kinds of jazz like that. And then I told him about this a young girl that was, when I started using her hair products, she was 11 years old, and she's a multi-millionaire now. But you
11 years when you first saw
yeah, it was her family's stuff, and she was just had this entrepreneurial talent at 11 years old, and she was marketing it and everything. I was so impressed. I ordered some, and it was really good, really good. So I kind of told him, mentioned to him about that in this one speech that I prepared for this particular golfing group that had children as young as 6 years old. So I did that also.
So connect the dots for us, Manny. From playing at East High,
right,
to going to the NBA. Connect the dots for me. How did that work?
Well, college. How would what was that career like?
Yeah, what was it?
Yeah. I actually we did extremely well at East High School. You know, we had some great teams. As a matter of fact, we captured the hearts of the city in the '60s. My senior year, we played in the city championship and the state championship, and I mean, we were really good. And I was the center. I was a shot blocker, rebounder, and scorer. And I was serious. You know, I was really serious. You know, and so we did extremely well at East High. And again, a lot of people now tell me that I was the LeBron of Cleveland during that time, because I got a lot of attention. And I used to block shots like Bill Russell, take over a game.
Right.
And I used to tell them, I'll look you in your eye and change your mind. Don't come in here.
you rule the paint. Is that what it is?
Oh,
You
yeah.
rule
And
the
that,
paint.
that was
right.
after blocking a couple of shots.
Right,
baby.
right. You
So
had to
they
let 'em
knew
know.
I was serious.
Right.
Gotta hesitate. Think about it. I think I'm gonna take this jumper right here.
Oh, yeah.
So then you got drafted from high school into the NBA?
No, I went to
Okay.
college. I went to
Okay.
Niagara University.
All right.
And actually, I almost went to Purdue, but I ended up selling for Niagara University. And I had a real nice freshman. I averaged about 24 my freshman year. And I think my career average was 17 on the varsity level. And also,
You also had double rebounds.
right,
throughout
oh
your
yeah,
career.
right, I did.
Very high rebound.
Right. As a matter of fact, they still talk about I got 30 rebounds against Syracuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's a lot.
we had some great teams. Actually, the coaches came to me one day and they said, "There's a guy in Norwalk, Connecticut, averaging 49 points a game. We want you to go there with us and talk to him because we don't think we can get him, but we want to try because he's averaging 49 points a game." Can you guess who that might have been?
49. Who was it? Russell.
Calvin Murphy,
Oh.
5'8". I called him Mighty Mouse.
5'8".
5'8".
Calvin Murphy.
Calvin
Wow.
Murphy. So I went there. Not only was he a great basketball player, but he was teaching 34 girls baton lessons. And he was the best basketball player I had ever seen. But he was a better baton twirler. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so he came to Niagara. He had 170 offers, but he came to Niagara. And they put him in the Maid of the Mist parade. This was a celebration to Niagara Falls, a parade that they have. They put him out front because he was this master baton twirler. And he was twirling double batons. He was throwing them up over the guide wire
Oh my God.
and catching them. I just knocked over the mic, by the way.
That's
That's
okay.
no problem.
So, what a fantastic guy. And he would throw both of the batons behind him while he's marching, and they would pop and come back to him, and he wouldn't miss a step. He was phenomenal.
Oh, he's an athlete.
And he had those kind of skills on the basketball court, too. When the other guys dribble and it's like, bam, 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 he was like, dribble like that, real low to the ground. But when he rose up, he looked like Jim Brown from the waist up. And he would hit his jumpers. He could shoot going on the way up. I was watching him one time when he was a freshman. As a matter of fact, after his first 3 games, they had headlines. He was averaging 57 points a game when he first started as a freshman. And I was watching him one game. I had to just get up and leave. He was, they were fouling him because they couldn't keep up with him. And so he fell at half court and he followed through and he was laying on the ground with his hands up following through. And the ball hit the net so hard. I said, I can't watch this. It's so easy for him. It's so hard for me to play this game, and this guy makes it so easy. But it was great playing with Calvin Murphy. We had some really good teams, and I had a All-American college career, and that ended up leading to the pros. And I was drafted in the pros by the Detroit Pistons in the second round, and I also was drafted by the Kentucky Colonels in the ABA. I ended up starting in the ABA. And
Why did you make that decision?
well, the NBA was offering a 1-year no cut, but it wasn't that much money. And I also had an agent who had issues that he was dealing with. He really wanted to get things over. And I'm a young kid. So I'm kind of like, just responding to whatever this agent is. Actually, I got the agent through Dave Bean, because I didn't really know any agents. In those days, we didn't have any advice from anybody. We didn't have lawyers.
You were just
we didn't
thrown
even,
out there.
That's how you started in those days, because there was no structure.
Right.
Not like there is now. They even have black agents and all kinds of stuff now,
Right.
you know. But we didn't have that. We were the pioneers. We were the pioneers, so we were going to go through some changes just to get started. So anyway, I ended up starting in the ABA, and I started with the Kentucky Colonels, and that was quite an experience. I was not happy with the coach there. I felt that this is in the Deep South,
Yes.
and I didn't like his attitude towards me, and I guess he didn't like my attitude
Towards it.
either, because he ended up, he respected my skills and everything, but he was a hard taskmaster, and for some reason that negativeness he focused on me, so that was a kind of a downer for me. But let me mention something about what happened during that time. My mother was sick, and I had got an advance, and I bought her some gifts, a refrigerator and some other things. I was glad I was able to do that. But ironically, she died on September the 8th, and I had to be in camp on September the 10th. And I didn't want to go, but my family said, she would want you to go. You need to go. So I ended up going there, and I got down. I had an upset stomach, though. They lasted for about 2 weeks. I had to take Malix or whatever that's called for my. Yes, I had to take that, and but things worked out pretty good. And that Kentucky was my first start. Then I went to the New York Nets, and that was interesting. That was almost like punishment. It reminded me of when.
You should punish me.
Yeah, it was terrible. We had to drive 50 miles to practice every day.
Wow.
50 miles to practice. That was that coach sending me, like
Right.
I'm trying to think of. I'll think of it in a minute, but I had an analogy for that.
Like when the Browns
when
were out in Richfield?
when Frederick Douglass was sent to Baltimore to break him because he was a slave.
Right.
Because I wrote in the column, because I had his book. I said, pro basketball is glorified slavery.
Wow.
Because of what I was going through at that time. It was a challenge, and a real rough start. But I made a determination that I was going to survive and that I was going to do well. And so I started, I ended up getting traded to the Dallas Chaparrals. And it was interesting to coach some of his comments that he made. I'll reserve not to mention some of his comments, but
Again, that's South.
I was surprised, but it really had a lot to do with, as I look back, I was pretty outspoken in college because we experienced some discrimination, and I spoke out about it.
Right.
And you pay for things when you take that risk. It's just like Kaepernick.
Yeah.
You pay for those things; they come back on you. But then again, it's important.
And it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, because Martin Luther King was accused of, they got civil disobedience. They act like that was something terrible. Now he's one of the greatest we ever had.
American heroes.
But that's the process.
The price and the process you pay.
that you go through when you are involved in oppression, and we're still experiencing that.
You said something very interesting, and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan spoke on it many times, how the NBA players, and all African-American sport players, are glorified slaves to their masters. In the NBA, in the NFL, wherever. They're glorified slaves, and it's about time that they begin to speak up.
But you know what? There was a breakthrough when that free agency came. That LeBron and them, to be able to get together and make a decision on a trade, that had never been done before.
Right.
And you can see Magic and Bird, they were talking about they wouldn't have done that. They couldn't have done it.
Right.
They couldn't have done it. They shouldn't even say that.
Right.
These young brothers, that was a revolution.
Right.
That was a
change,
revolution.
and that was good.
That was a revolution. So I'm proud of LeBron.
Yeah.
I'm proud of, Wade and all those guys getting together and taking advantage of something that they earned. And, I talked to Archie Clark, who is a founder of an organization that I'm going to mention later. And we actually played together with the Bullets. And he was involved in the decision in the fight that the players made to get those done. The Oscar Robertson lawsuit and all of those things played an important part on this progress that the young brothers today should be thanking Oscar Robertson for the stand that he made. He stopped that merger from occurring. Now, I played in the ABA and the NBA, so I'm involved, but I stopped my career before the merger. But the fact that I played in both leagues, I benefit from all that time, and some of those issues are still unresolved, but I'll be working on that too.
You say some of those issues real quick. What issues?
Just the issue of the ABA players getting respected and accepted into the NBA family. And they haven't really been accepted. They should be. They're just like out on the island.
Right.
And they should be embraced because actually...
They're the ones who make basketball popular, a lot of them.
Everything that they're advertising through the NBA is from the ABA.
Right.
The 3-point, that's from the ABA. The weekend celebration, the slam dunk contest, all of that's from the ABA. And they were saying they're flashy and everything, but they were marketing their product. And actually, the NBA did not like the 6'6" player. They thought that player was too short to be a big man and a little not short enough to be a real guard. But those ended up being our best players.
Forwards.
Dr. J.
Right.
Yeah, or guards. They
Right.
played guard too. They were six. They played guard too. They played mostly guard.
Okay.
Yeah,
6'6", yeah.
They would have classified them as a forward, but they ended up
actually were guards.
They ended up playing guards, taking over the position, and being the greatest athletes of all time. So except when LeBron came along.
Right, then he became the greatest.
He's a big guy that's doing those things that small guys do.
Now speaking of LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Here we
go. You and I have had this conversation, during Thanksgiving or Christmas or whenever we're all sitting around the table. And you brought up something about, these guys aren't playing defense the way defense should be played. Explain that to my audience so they can understand defense.
I'm so glad that you focused in on that. That is because I made my little notes.
Did you?
Making sure that I was going to bring it up anyway because it's just so pronounced. I remember when I started playing in pro ball, that Gene Rose, that same coach that I was talking about with Kentucky, I have to give it to him. He got on my case about playing defense because you have to really play some defense and you have to understand. But one of the basic fundamentals is to get your hands up. These guys all got their hands down. They acting like they're playing defense, but you got to get your hands up. As a matter of fact, when you get your hands up, you can even take it across their vision a little bit, accidentally, but purpose.
Right.
Well, I used to do it all
when
the time
you got
in high
your
school.
hands down, you know.
My father said that over defense.
Right. But if you got your hands down, that shooter knows when they're going to shoot.
You don't.
And if you got your hands down,
You got to react.
you got to react and bring them up. By that time, you done let that shot go. So all these guys that are hitting these three-pointers from the corner, they're not shifting properly. And when they get over there, they got their hands down, thinking they're playing. The highest point is the top of their head,
Right.
with their hands down. I mean, it's a basic fundamental. But you know what the key is? It's up to the coaches. Because you can't hold your hands up without practicing it. You got to practice keeping your hands up the whole. It's a labor to do
Yes.
that, but you
Yes.
need to have your hands up at the top and to the side for the passing lanes, and you switch hands. They
Right, I
can't see
remember.
me doing this. But
Right. I was taught that in school.
That's
Yeah.
basic.
That's basic
fundamentals.
fundamentals.
Basic
But you don't see it nowadays.
No.
They lost it. You know, I think a lot of it has to do with the coaches are a little intimidated by the players and they're losing
Well, you see
things.
it with the best defense players, though. They do it. The ones who always give the top defense, they'll be the ones who always got their hands up, always moving something.
Right, but when you're coaching, if the unit's not doing it, then it's not as effective.
And it's on you.
And it's a team sport.
Right.
It's not an individual. You can get some individual acclaims and everything, but you have to run that coach's system.
Right.
You know, you really have to run that coach's
So
system.
do you think they have a system, some of these coaches? You were saying they were
They're-
intimidated
they're-
about the personalities they're coaching?
They're attempting to do it, but some of the things have been lost. They need to get back and do a little homework about how to do that basic fundamental, or lead John Wooden's Modern Basketball. He has all those fundamentals in there. I shouldn't tell everybody that because that's like my Bible when I coach. Whenever I coach, I use that book. And ironically, that book was introduced to me in Mogadishu, Somalia. You know, because I was advisor and coach to the Somali national basketball team in the 80s. And I didn't bring a book with me, but I know the game. So one of my assistant coaches who was Somalian, he says, you might want to take a look at this. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar left it here. And it was that book. That was my introduction to that book.
Wow.
And where we were, they didn't really have television. Some of the people used the DVDs to watch TV, but they didn't have a television station. So you had all this time. And I just read that book. And John Wooden was also a college professor. So when I read it, it was as though he was just talking to
Lecturing
me
you.
or lecturing me. And then he also was such a confident man that he shared, all his concepts. He wasn't intimidated by sharing. So any problem that I solved, and I went to that book, it worked like a charm. So I ended up, actually, I should mention what I'm talking about. I was unemployed, and I was in Cleveland. I was playing with the Cleveland Old Timers, and I was looking for a job. And we were winning all these games with the Old Timers, and some of the older guys that weren't playing, they had job contacts. And I was saying, hey, look, we winning all these games. Most of you guys are working. I'm looking for a job, So I was asking them for some contacts. And finally, the coach got tired of me asking. He said, what are you looking for? And so I thought, and I said, an international job that involves travel. And he looked at me like I was crazy. But he came back in about 2 days, and he said, there's a guy in Akron that works for the YMCA, and he's always going to Africa. And he said they're looking for a coach in Mogadishu, Somalia. Are you interested? I said, yeah.
Wow.
You
spoke it and it happened.
Hey,
That's
by
awesome.
the grace of
Look
God.
Come on.
By the grace of God. And I say by the grace of God, I'm going to have to pause for a minute. By the grace of God, I have to say that. I should have started off by saying I'm fine by the grace of God. That's the title of this presentation.
Yes.
Because I'm a cancer survivor.
Wow.
And I have to really mention that because I don't want to leave that out.
That's right.
Because I share information. I learned a lot through that suffering in that valley that I was in. And, Paul talks about being in that valley. And I was in that valley. And when you're in the valley, no matter what it is, if you pull and try to have some courage and try to get information and try to survive, you're going to come out a better person if you survive. And in that valley, I had a talk with God. And I asked God for help because I didn't know if I was going to live or die. and I really got closer to God in my life experience through this suffering, and I really think it played a major part on my last healing, because I came back totally. For about 10 or 11 years, I was underweight. Now, my weight came back, that look in my eye came back, everything came back. And my doctor was confused like crazy. He didn't know what happened. He knew he gave me good medicine, but he didn't know what happened, you know. So, he called me up. He called me up at 6:30 in the evening. He said, I looked at your CAT scans. A lot of it's gone, you know, like a question mark.
Like, what you doing?
Yeah, and then about 3 weeks later, I had to see him. And so I laid on his bench, and he started circling me. Usually he's quiet, doesn't say anything. He started circling me, and he said, this is good news. This is good news. He said it 4 times. And I said, it's a miracle, and it's God.
Amen.
You know, it's God. You know, and I said, I want to see the CAT scans. He said, you want to see them? Like a little kid. And when he showed them to me, it was state of the art, so he could tune in on my heart. He said, that fluid that you had in your left lung, that's gone. He said that pressure you was feeling against your heart, that was a tumor, and it shrunk to almost nothing. But what you really got to see is the before and after picture. When he showed me the before and after, I said, that is a miracle.
Wow.
That's a miracle. So I say, by the grace of God.
Yes, sir.
So excuse me for that
sir.
pause, because
Praise the Lord.
I had to go there.
You had to give him the credit, and the honor, and the glory.
And
Amen.
everything good, I blame it on
Come
him.
on. I know
I
that's
blame it on him.
Amen. Well, brother, that is all a part of the KZ Radio Television Network. We are Cleveland's online inspiration station. All glory to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Getting to our Cleveland Cavaliers, by the way, if you want to update, they're down 30-18, just to let you know. So maybe
who are they playing?
They're playing a team that is 1-8.
Yeah.
It looks like the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, wow.
And they're losing to them right now,
Well,
30-18.
It's what, the first? Still the first?
Oh yeah, first. Yeah, I think it's on the second now.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's just your boys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's 1 minute to go.
Well, the defense would make a big difference. 1 minute to go for
the first quarter.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
They got time. I'm not really concerned.
They don't have time.
Yeah, well, this is a team that's sort of got new parts, and they're trying to get to know each other.
Whatever.
You
know what, John?
I think a lot of it's also
everyone gives these guys excuses.
True.
Everyone gives these guys excuses. I don't give them excuses. You got all these veteran, Derrick Rose, yay! Dwayne Wade, yay! You get all these superstars, LeBron James, yay! And they're coming into the season and they're already 4-3.
Like I said, you got a lot of parts that got to come to some consistency to work together.
Whatever.
Well, they made a major transition also because Kyrie is gone. Right. And now it's a major transition. Yeah. Then you got players that have been around for a while who are injury prone. Yeah. You know, that are having problems with their physical. So you got to...
Derrick Rose is not the Derrick Rose that came in. He's got limitations.
So we got to see how they pull this together and what's going to happen and see what LeBron decides to do this summer, when he
I really think he's, people don't realize, I'd say that he has way too many miles on him. So, then he had that ankle situation earlier, and he's playing, but I think he, but it's like he's trying to control how much energy. And he's an older guy, and,
Well,
so
as an athlete, I don't really like to be called that, an older guy, because it depends on how you function and how you perform. Mm-hmm. We don't know what LeBron's going to do because he hasn't had hardly any injuries. He's got one of the strongest bodies that I've ever seen.
But he takes care of it, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's part of it.
That's why he's strong.
That's part of it. That's part of it. But he's
not many of them do it.
God gave him a lot of strength, too. A lot of that is God given, something special that He has that that's a gift from God. That's a talent that is special that He has. So we're gonna see though. The whole test is how things come out and their results. And the bottom line is winning. You got to win the games.
Right.
You know?
Amen. That is the bottom line. You got to be winners.
Still on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me something.
We're still on.
Yeah. What? We ain't dead. What? You thought we was off there?
I wasn't sure. You said something about a break, so I was just trying to figure out what you were talking about.
No breaks. No breaks. No
Oh,
breaks.
you don't? Okay.
No, I don't. No commercial breaks, bro.
Okay.
No commercial.
Okay.
We only got 20 minutes left anyway. But I do want to touch on something that you're doing currently, which I thought is absolutely fascinating. You are working on a project for retired NBA athletes, basketball players. Is that correct?
Right. As a matter of fact, the National Basketball Players Association, that's an organization that the players started, and to improve their health and just to advocate for the players. And they have 11 chapters, but Cleveland didn't have a chapter. And since I'm from Cleveland, and one of my buddies who's an attorney, I had called him for another reason, but he said, we just did the chapter in Detroit. You need to do Cleveland. That was 2 years ago. And I started trying to get the chapter started here and find out what the process was. The national office for the organization is in Chicago. And I didn't have success at first. I was attempting to do it, but I wasn't kind of getting the cooperation that I wanted to get. They were saying they weren't doing Cleveland now. So I had to kind of accept that. But I kept on trying and kept on communicating and finding out more. And I found out that it really is up to the players to start it where they are. And that was really, I found that out from one of the founders who actually came up with the idea for the organization. Because we played, Archie Clark, we played together with the Bullets. And he's just one of my close friends. So I kind of talked with him. So we kind of got past all of that, and we started the chapter. We had a meeting recently. So we're working on that. What we will be doing is we will be bringing corporate people together to sponsor charitable events. So we're going to have an advisory committee, but we're going to have the players. And we're in the early stages because we're in the process of establishing offices now. And it's real early, but as I learn and I get involved and we get it set, we're going to reach out into the community and build relationships. And we have a natural connection with the Cavaliers because we cover all of Ohio because the Cleveland Cavaliers are here in Cleveland. So the Cleveland chapter is the main chapter for the whole state of Ohio, and all the players, including Oscar Robertson and all of them.
The Big O?
Yeah, the Big O. So we're in the process of starting that. I'm really happy. Campy Russell has worked really closely. I picked him to work with, and we've been working, and Campy's is quite a young man, quite a man, in terms of getting things done. We're working together, very positive. Brad Sellers is going to play a major part as we begin to pick the positions that are coming up. So we'll see how that develops. When those are in place, we'll probably make an announcement. And but we're going to be building that, and that'll be a real nice thing for the older players to have an important part. And that one thing that I noticed, one of the things with these fundamentals missing, the older players would have always advised. They would have pinpointed that. If you were listening to the older players, they would definitely tell you, you got to play better defense than this. That's not up to NBA standards to have your hands down when you're playing defense. For whatever reason, they need to revamp that defense. I mean, really, I'm serious.
They do.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Do you think it's mainly because the NBA is more and more going more individual? I mean, in times of the rules and things like that, it seems like it's all geared to, even though it's a team sport, the way they market it, and it's more like an individual thing.
Well, one thing, they made the rule that you can't buy hand check.
Right.
And hand check was really important for me because I could play 7-footers, but I needed to be able to put that hand on their hip.
Right.
And they're kind of getting away from that, making rules against that. But still, that has nothing to do with getting your hands up.
Right.
That basic fundamental, you have to do that. Yeah. So, what else do you gentlemen want to know? Did we cover everything, or?
Well, no. I mean, there's so much more to cover with you. You took a pause a moment ago to give Jesus, to give God the glory for bringing you through that shadow of the valley of death experience that you had. Share if you would please with our audience how you came to know God.
Well, I've always been in a religious family, and it was always around me, and I had basic respect, but I don't think it resonated the level that I'm at now. I had to go through something to be awakened, to really ask God for help and believe it, and to have faith. That whole process. My illness caused me to, even though I had faith and believed before, but not on this level, not this powerful. And so that process of illness helped me a lot. But I'm involved with a Bible study every Thursday at 4:30 with Tony Dungy and James Brown, JB, we call them. Both of them do the football broadcast. As a matter of fact, because of Thursday night football, we moved the Bible study to Wednesdays. We normally have it on Thursdays for this time period. That's the first time we did it. And I've been involved with them for 6 years. And we have a retreat every May, I think it is, in Washington, D.C. So we pray for each other. It's like a family. And
is it a conference call you guys are on?
It's a conference call.
Okay.
It's a conference call. And that's what we do at 4:30. It's a conference call.
Oh, wow.
And so Tony Dungy interprets scripture, and he's like a teacher, and James Brown does it some, but we go through different a chapter or either like 3 chapters every time we get together. Awesome. So it's a blessing, and I have been really inspired, and I've learned more scripture this way than any other process so far.
Yeah.
So that learning the word is one of the responsibilities.
That's right.
If you're a real Christian.
That's right.
And that's what I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying a lot. I'm enjoying this spiritual experience, and knowing God and feeling God's presence. And a lot of God's presence is in us.
That's
Yes.
right.
It's within us.
Absolutely.
The Holy Spirit is within us.
Absolutely.
Jesus left that with us, the Comforter.
The Comforter.
Yeah.
Amen.
The helper.
The Helper.
Yes.
That's right. Comforter, Helper, Holy Spirit. So, in your career now, in your starting this retired career, doing the NBA, and helping the young people, and just what you do day to day, do you see in your future any kind of coaching of young people in the arena of basketball, high school or junior college, or some of that wisdom that you're a wealth of, or even helping the Cavaliers in their front office? Do you see anything like that? Do you want to do anything like that?
Yeah, I'm open. I'm open. Sometimes even individual coaching. I offer that. I haven't really totally committed myself to doing it, but I'm willing to train young people, especially if they ask. In fact, I do it automatically.
Right.
But then again, I can offer that service also, and that's one of my, avenues of, streams of money, in terms of creating. Because when you retire, you got to get creative.
Right, right.
And you don't necessarily want a regular job, but you want to figure out how to create multiple streams of income.
That's right. That's right.
So I do, I'm the public speaking will come under that, and also looking into some real estate, so I'll be doing some things like that in terms of my career. But I'm open to do some coaching. I'm not trying to pursue it, but I have the skills. When I went to Africa and
I wanted to get back to that because you said Mogadishu, Somalia, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a.
When I got into that, I got them up at 6:30 in the morning, and they started complaining about it. But I said I got to train them. I got them on the track. I had them doing sprints, 60-yard dashes, 100-yard dashes, and I had them running long distance. This is at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I had them practicing, and I had one fan. They said, "Look, we never win anything. We just want to win one game."
Sound like the Browns.
Yeah.
So I ended up once I got them going, and actually, I was training them, and I didn't have anybody for them to play against. One of my buddies put a team together, and we kind of got an idea. But the military stole my team and took it to Saudi Arabia and left me. And I was like, this is strange. I heard about strange things can happen, but this was pretty strange. And I mean, I had spent 3 months training there.
The military.
And I always had one guy. Somalia is run by the military. Right. So the whole country is run by the military. It's over it. So they play an important part in everything that happens. And so I had one guy on my team that was connected with the military, but they took my whole team and took them to Saudi Arabia and left me. But I used to have to go to 2 different restaurants to balance my diet because they didn't eat many vegetables. And so I kept speaking to people saying, "Hi, I'm doing fine, but I'd be better if I was in Saudi Arabia." They look at me like I was crazy. And I finally got to this one guy. He says, "I'm a doctor, and I've been here for 4 years, and no doctor stays more than 3. And out of all the people that will help you, it's the ambassador from the United States." He says, "That's who you need to talk to." And so I ended up contacting him, and I got to him, and he said, "Sit down and tell me everything." And Mel Woodfield, he's an African-American, Frederica Woodfield, that's her father. She's announced for CNN. He was in charge of all the programs for the continent of Africa for the State Department. And that's who I was hired by. So I ended up getting my ticket to go to Saudi Arabia that next morning from that ambassador. And he had already talked to Mel Woodfield. So it was amazing.
What time period was that?
It was in the 80s.
In the 80s?
That was in the 80s, And so I ended up going over there. They were shocked when I got there and embarrassed because they had purposely left me, really. And so I finally got to see my team play against somebody else. And they couldn't dribble. I had worked on dribbling, but they couldn't dribble against a really good defense. And so when we came back, I put them on those dribble drills. And by the time we were ready for the tournament, which they were hosting, the All-African Cup games, by the time we were in 11 countries from all over the continent of Africa came to Somalia for these games. So it was a big thing in Africa to have those games. And the first 3 plays, we had about maybe 8,000 people at the game. And the first 3 plays, they came down and they hit these, they looked like professional scores. And this one guy who I couldn't teach to do a layup, I taught him how to finger roll because they saw me finger rolling. And I said, this is how Dr. J shoots. And they wanted to learn that. This one guard who I couldn't teach the layup, he drives baseline and finger rolls and swishes. And all the stands stood up and sang their national anthem in Arabic. I said, this is like the 60s, man.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a great experience. It was like being in a movie. It was so much. As a matter of fact, it was so deep. Egypt had a team, and Egypt was kind of running things. And what was the other? Algeria. The guys, when we were over there in Saudi Arabia, they kept saying, watch out for Algeria. They cause trouble. They cause trouble. So in the middle of our games in Mogadishu, Somalia, Algeria started saying we should be disqualified. We had won the first few games and we lost a game or 2, and they were saying, we're hosting the event, and they're talking about we should be disqualified. You know what they did? The Somalians stopped the games and surrounded the dorms with their army. I said, I don't know what they're doing. I'm going downtown and I'm a party. When that's over with you all, call me back.
Wow.
So that was an adventure. Like I said, it was like being in a movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, they take their sport serious.
Now check this out.
Really?
I was working for the State Department. I was an independent contractor, and I had a ticket that you could fly anywhere in the continent of Africa for the tax on the visa. I think I went to Nigeria for $1.75.
Wow.
Yeah. So because I was looking for a professor, so I stopped in Nigeria looking for this professor. But ironically, when I was in Mogadishu, Somalia, they kept asking me, "Are you from Nigeria? Are you from Nigeria?" And then when I got to Nigeria, they thought I was from Nigeria. And I wasn't there. I wasn't there but a little bit of time. And I'm in the lobby of the Federal Hotel because Kenny Davis, when we landed and I got off of the plane, there was Kenny Davis from the Kenny Davis Band. And he said, "Manny Leaks, what you doing in Nigeria?"
Wow.
He said, "Do you have a place to stay?" He said, "Well, you can stay at the Federal Hotel with my drummer." So that's how I ended up there. I wasn't there a half an hour, and I see these 3 women, and one of them looked just like my mother. I grabbed my chest. It scared me so.
Wow.
I had just got there, and I didn't even say anything to her because I was shocked,
Wow.
But it's amazing. But I was told that they'll tell you where you're from.
Oh, yeah.
And they were saying they thought I was from Nigeria.
Nigeria. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, man? We have truly enjoyed having you on What's Going On with Lady D and Sir John.
Absolutely.
I mean,
A lot of
we've learned
motivation,
a
actually.
lot.
And a lot of knowledge. Thank
And we got about 2 minutes to go. John, I'm gonna let you ask the final question, and however you want to wrap this up. But we got to have you back, man, to share more of your story and your success, and talk to some of these young folks that are listening.
Okay. Well,
You take these 2 minutes.
One thing, I have an emphasis on African American males and helping them and encouraging them. And I want you to be strong, and all the youth, not just the males, all the youth, but African American males in particular, because of what we're going through as a people, with our young people and even older being shot down. I don't know what's going on with that police situation, but it's unacceptable for this type of thing to be going on. So I encourage the African American males to be strong, to get your education. And then also, we're running out of time, but I want to follow up on that cancer situation because I share information. And so any of you who want more information, contact the radio station and I'll be willing to help.
Manny, thank you, man. We love you.
All right. I love it. I love everybody.
Cleveland, we had a lot of artists today.